Have you ever thought of the soil as a habitat? It is. Soil is not just a lifeless, inert medium. It is a living, dynamic, and ever so subtly changing environment, teeming with microscopic and larger organisms. Soil provides vital habitat for microbes like bacteria and fungi. Furthermore, it is a home to earthworms, termites, and millipedes. The role of soil biota is to recycle organic matter that is left behind by the above-ground plant-based food web. The more biodiversity we find in soil, the healthier the soil is. Healthy soils produce high-quality, nutrient-dense produce. Furthermore, soils filled with strong-rooted organic matter are able to hold larger capacities of moisture. Moisture retention is not only better for crops, but also means less erosion. When the land retains water, it acts as a giant sponge, filtering and absorbing nutrients and contaminants that would otherwise enter water resources. Thriving soils with abundant organic matter stack benefits for farmers and their neighbors. Agricultural professionals who understand the significance of organic matter have begun to revert to age-old management practices like conservation tillage, cover crops, crop rotation, composting, and rotational grazing. Furthermore, they are using appropriate modern technology to enhance these practices. Farmers have been led to believe that most soil-related problems can be dealt with in a reactionary way by simply using external inputs like fertilizers, irrigation, subsoilers, or pesticides. But problems like nutrient deficiencies, minimal moisture retention, compacted soils, plant disease, or insect infestations are often simply symptoms of underlying soil biodiversity problems. Exhaustion of organic soil matter and a depletion of a diverse population of soil organisms is often the real source of agricultural difficulties. Focusing on general soil health management and the strength of natural biological systems will go a long way to preventing many, if not most, agricultural issues. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, has developed a soil health rainfall simulator to show how well different soil samples can retain water and soil sediment. One of the major indicators of soil health is how well it can soak up rainfall. The rainfall simulator simultaneously dispenses water on up to 5 different soils from different land management systems. The runoff and infiltration from these different management scenarios are collected below the simulator in clear jars. The results are strikingly visible.
All right, well, I am Candy Fuller. I am the district conservationist for the Natural Resource Conservation Service around Brainerd, Minnesota. And there are 4 key soil health principles, and then there's a 5th bonus one if we can do it. But one is to minimize tillage or disturbance on your soil. You want to maximize your diversity. The other one that we really want to do, and this is what we're really going to be showing in this one, is the importance of keeping the soil covered. And our last one is to maximize those living roots. And then we do have the integrate livestock wherever possible. And that one gets a little tricky unless you have a neighbor or you know somebody that has some livestock you could put on your farm field. Maybe you could overwinter in there. But if you're just doing this in your backyard, that might be a little bit tricky. So those are our principles. So when we're going to turn this on, we're going to see just the difference. We're going to have a 1-inch rainfall event, and we're going to see what happens to these buckets underneath. And it's pretty dramatic. So all of these have the same tray on them. So just so you know, there's no trickery. There's nothing in there with one having no holes in it. They're all this tray. So if you want to see those holes, so you can turn it on and let it go for 1 inch. If you guys want to help me watch for 1 inch, these are all empty cups, and we're going to should have 1 inch across the board. So Ryan, turn it on over there. So we're just going to let this run until this fills up, and we're going to see what happens. So now we've let it run. We had our 1 inch of rain, and then we've let it sit for a little bit to let this water infiltrate down. So now you can see that there's a pretty big difference between this side of the simulator and this side of the simulator. On this end over here, where we did not have any cover, all the water pretty much ran off. I don't even know if hardly any infiltrated down or seeped through the soil, and it's very dirty. So a lot of soil is now sitting in that bucket down there, which that would simulate if there was a ditch or a stream. Let's say you could put it in even the same context if you were keeping your beach very, very sandy, and every time it rains, all of that sediment is gonna go into the lake, and it'll look just like that. Nothing is infiltrating down, and you're not saving anything for later down in the soil. And if you go all the way to this end over here, you can see that this is if you even had left some cover along your shoreline or left some cover out in your farm field, you're gonna have the water stop and it's gonna infiltrate down. And all of this 1 inch of rain, you are pretty much going to be keeping on your land for later. So in a year like this, when we're having a really bad drought, this is really important, because here you're not getting any of that rain in your field. It is all running off and watering your ditches. Whereas down here, it's all seeping into the soil, and you are getting to keep that rain for those crops that you are trying to grow, or for your flowers that you're trying to grow, or for your pasture. So this one here from the pasture, you can see the same situation as our pollinator. And then even here on the forest ground, just adding that little bit of cover for showing a forested floor. You can see the trees are getting to have a nice drink. Very little is running off. And then even adding a little bit of cover, not implementing any of the other practices, just leaving some cover. We got to keep at least half of our rain in our rainfall event, or maybe a little under half, but we got to keep something. Better than nothing, which is right on the end.
Let's ask farmers and ranchers how these conservation practices work on the land.
We try to follow all the soil health principles. Actually, we do a lot of cover cropping, integrating cover crops into our vegetable plantings. We keep a diverse rotation. Try to keep our plantings on a 6-year rotation. So we're getting a lot of diversity out there as far as diverse cover crops, as well as diverse crop rotations, and letting the land be fallow for several years before we bring it back into the rotation. And then running animals on that. Well-managed livestock is the biological driver. We understand that, and that's why we have livestock on our farm. Integrating those livestock on the land really helps fuel that biology and promote soil health. We also do a lot of agroforestry practices.
I think for us, just rotation is huge. Just rotating the cows on a daily basis, at least once a day. We're rotating, so we give what's behind them rest. And then, we've seen a huge improvement in that. When we moved here to this farm, it was it'll be 5 years in November. It was a row crop farm, so excessive tillage, and just retraining myself that tillage isn't bad if you use it every once in a while, but if you till every year again and again and again, you're mining the soil. You're mining that topsoil. So we found just, really lack of topsoil. When you have, on top of that, you have sand, so you have water erosion, and seeing just the need for more carbon, more organic matter, so it's one of those things where, just seeing the improvement just from growing nothing to actually having a stand of grass, and clover and various broadleaves, which I like to see the diversity of it, of plant life.
A wise conservationist once said, "Without love for the land, conservation lacks meaning or purpose, for only in a deep inherent feeling for the land can there be dedication in preserving it." Where do you find meaning and purpose in your work on the land?
What is my why, I guess, is the question you're asking, and it's I consider myself an environmentalist. I like kind of my motto is I'm a tree hugger with 3 chainsaws and a sawmill. You know, I hug them till I cut them down and turn them into boards or firewood. But yeah, we're you know, I just love. I've always been passionate about gardening, growing food, and growing plants. My wife is kind of the livestock farmer of the partnership. So, you know, when you integrate livestock and plants together, that's where you get the symbiosis, and that's where the beauty comes in. So, you know, that's kind of been our passion for a long time.
I love waking up and knowing that it's going to be a different day every day. Like, what are you going to see, you know, growing in the field? What are you going to see in the air? What are you going to see on the ground, you know, wildlife? I just love that about farming. And really just being a part of, I mean, something bigger than yourself. Like for you know, when you're focused on soil health, you know, you see the positive, I guess, the positive results of your management. So, you know, whether it's improved forage stand or field sparrows, you know, like nesting in your fields, or bobolinks, or, you know, so that sort of thing. It's just like, I love that about it, seeing the positive of, you know, how you choose to manage your land. And, you know, for me, just thinking about the bees, thinking about the pollinators, not just the cows, but thinking about ecology as a whole, you know, I have to train myself to do that.
Both the NRCS and your local SWCD serve as landowner resources for all your soil health questions. They have in-depth information on any of the conservation practices we've just discussed. Feel free to contact either of them today. Funding for this video was provided in part by the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Amendment.